cheered a strong, historic third majority mandate.
It's job done for Doug Ford and his progressive conservatives, getting the keys to Queen's Park for 4 more years.
Also a decisive win for NDP leader Marit Stiles, returning as leader of the official opposition for a 3rd straight term. But a disappointing night for Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie, failing to win a seat in the legislature. The riding of Mississauga East Cooksville going to PC candidate and Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown's mother-in-law, Sylvia Gualtieri. But the Liberal Party did gain official party status. And Ontario Green leader Mike Schreiner was re-elected in Guelph and Kitchener Centre, keeping the Greens with 2 seats at Queen's Park. Good afternoon. We begin with the outcome of the provincial election.
Doug Ford's gamble on a snap election has paid off as the Ontario PCs secure a decisive 3rd straight majority mandate. The Conservatives won 80 seats last night, an increase of 1 seat from what they had at dissolution, 3 fewer from the 2022 election. The NDP were winners in 27 ridings. They're down 1 seat, followed by the Liberals with 14 seats, which means they pick up 5. The Green Party won 2 ridings, status quo for them, and 1 seat went to an independent candidate. There were 3 fewer independents elected this time around. And here's a look at a couple of seats that changed hands. Stephanie Smythe won the Toronto St. Paul riding for the Liberals. The former CP24 news anchor defeated the NDP incumbent, Jill Andrew, by just under 4,000 votes. The Liberals also picked up the riding of Etobicoke Lakeshore. Former St. Mary's Hospital president Lee Fairclough garnered more than 25,000 votes. That was enough to defeat the progressive conservative incumbent in that riding, Christine Hogarth, by about 4,000 ballots. And CTV Sean Leithong is live in that flipped Etobicoke Lakeshore riding this afternoon to give us a recap on the election and a look at the all-important voter turnout, Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan were in that riding, that one of few that actually flipped last night. Very little change throughout the province, but the length of time that the Premier will be in power has, of course, increased.
Doug Ford wanted a strong mandate, and that is exactly what he got, with the political gamble of calling an early election paying off.
This election, we asked the people for a mandate, a strong mandate that outlives and outlasts the Trump administration.
With the PCs gaining at least 1 seat, Ford is set to become one of the province's longest-serving premiers. This morning, reaction was mixed.
Yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job last time. I have no complaints.
I didn't like the fact that Doug Ford thought he needed to call an election, number one, and I wanted him to have the consequences of that.
It seems that Doug Ford is only concentrating on the tariffs. When he was campaigning, that's all he talked about. So it really made me uncertain about his intentions.
Ford campaigned on protecting Ontario from U.S. President Donald Trump's proposed tariffs, which are set to take effect next Tuesday.
Donald Trump's going to be in for 4 years. I think it was a good time to call an election, get a good 4-year mandate, and I'm fine with that, too.
With some of the Premier's past scandals in the background, but not forgotten.
Some of the deals that were going on in the Greenbelt and things like that were a bit underhanded.
He got the majority. We are happy. Now he's going to do some job with the USA.
NDP leader Marit Stiles will return to lead the official opposition.
Our job is to hold this government to account. And that is the job that we are going to do.
And in what has to be a disappointing night, Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie failed to win her own riding in Mississauga, but gained enough seats to return the party to official status for the first time since 2018.
The Ontario Liberal Party is back to official party status, and that's a big milestone.
Crombie vowing to stay on as leader despite not having a seat.
Now, voter turnout in this election was actually low, but it was better than expected. The early voter turnout had been just 6% of eligible voters. Last night, 45% of eligible voters turned out to the polls. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leithong. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. The Conservatives got more than 2.1 million votes, dominating the southern region of the province. Except for a few pockets of NDP and Liberal ridings, it was a sea of blue from Windsor to Cornwall and points north. For the most part, the New Democrats and the Liberals split Northern Ontario. You can use this map on the CTV News Toronto website to look up your local results.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau congratulated Premier Ford on his re-election last night, saying Ontario and Canada are at their best when we work together to defend Canadian interests, protect workers, and make life more affordable. Wishing you and your team the best as you head back to work for the people of Ontario. And Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow also sent her congratulations to Doug Ford on his re-election as Premier. She added, let's continue working together to build a more caring, affordable, and safer Toronto. We will build more homes faster, feed more kids, get Toronto moving by investing in transit and tackling congestion, and protect businesses and workers from a senseless U.S. trade war. And on a rare winter election day yesterday, there was definitely some frustrating weather to contend with, slippery at times. As we take a live look at the city on this Friday afternoon, it's pretty calm this hour, but we have been anticipating some unsettled weather. Lindsay Morrison is here to tell us how that's shaping up. Lindsay.
Well, Michelle, we are still anticipating some unsettled weather, but I'm happy to say that it's not looking like it's going to be quite as impactful as it did yesterday. It's an Alberta clipper that's now knocking on our door. Yes, we can still expect some snow, slushy, wet snow at that. But interestingly enough, Environment Canada brought a winter weather travel advisory that was in place for Toronto. It has come to an end. And snowfall warnings that were in place for, say, Barrie, Ontario, have been downgraded, I should say, to a winter weather travel advisory. So still snowfall accumulation today, just maybe not quite as crippling as it could have been. Winds coming out of the south, they are going to strengthen today. It's also going to bump our temperature up eventually today to a high of about 4 degrees. That might happen this evening. And when it does, we could see a change from some wet snow to some rain. This is one way to kick off the weekend. Some cold temperatures are in store. We'll talk about that just ahead in your forecast. For now, Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Toronto police are investigating a stabbing near Church and Wellesley that left a victim seriously hurt. The CTV News chopper flew over the scene at Church and Maitland. Emergency crews responded just after 9 a.m. to reports of a stabbing. They transported a patient to hospital with serious but not life-threatening injuries. 2 schools in the area were briefly put into a hold and secure, but they've resumed normal operations. Some road closures are in place as police say they're still searching for the suspect involved.
Peel police have announced an arrest in a kidnapping investigation in Brampton. On Tuesday, police allege 32-year-old Majinder Kalra from Brampton posed as a law enforcement official and stopped a victim near Beauvais Drive and Airport Road. He is accused of demanding her immigration documents, and when the victim stopped at her home to gather them, she's believed to have told her family that she was going to the police station and money was needed for her release. They called police, and Kalra now faces charges including kidnapping and impersonating a police officer. Well, the union representing City of Toronto workers is holding an information picket today as the labor dispute with the city stretches on.
Workers could be on strike or locked out on March 8th, just ahead of March break. CTV's John Musselman is live with more on what's at stake. John.
Well, Nathan, they had an information picket this morning. They'll have another one this afternoon. What we're talking about here is nearly 30,000 inside workers with the City of Toronto. We'll just show you some video this morning. They did set up this information picket on Wellesley Street. What we're talking about here is, inside workers with the city, childcare, 311 operators. And the union is claiming that they're undervalued and underpaid, and they're demanding a better contract from the city. Now, the Ontario Relations Board did issue a no-board report, so we're looking at a countdown to a potential strike at 12:01 a.m. on March the 8th. So there's still time to reach a deal here. Here's what some of the people had to tell us this morning.
Message to the city, buckle up. We're organized, we're mobilized, we're ready. We do not want to strike, but we're not afraid to strike. We know we're worth it, and we're prepared to fight.
Well, we have a strike deadline of March 8th, and, we may negotiate beyond that, but that's really going to be up to the city and whether or not they're willing to come to the table and negotiate and work towards a fair contract. So workers are leaving and going to other smaller municipalities that pay more with better working conditions. And what the city is now facing is not just workers who are angry because they're not getting paid on par with market rate, but they're also facing a situation internally where the public is not able to receive the services that they rely on because of underinvestment and underfunding.
Now, the city says they were able to reach an agreement with the outside workers, nearly 15% over 4 years. They're hoping to get the same deal with the inside workers. There'll be another information session, picket line this afternoon. We hope to get a response from the city as well. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. Well, there's a new homegrown food delivery app attempting to give big names like Skip the Dishes and Uber Eats a run for their money.
Speedy Feast is Brampton-based and, unlike its competitors, is focused on fee transparency. CTV's Rahim Ladani has the story.
It's the lunchtime rush, and Baba Kitchen has received an online order.
There's a chicken curry rice ball.
But it's not from one of the more well-known food delivery service companies.
As I saw these apps getting worse over time, I wanted to, and by worse I mean, let's say, charging higher fees and such.
So Anubhav Malik used his computer science degree from the University of Waterloo and experience from working in Silicon Valley to create Speedy Feast. It's a Brampton-based food delivery service. But unlike other apps, which tack on a delivery fee, other fees, and a tip option, Speedy Feast rolls them all into one charge based on the customer's distance to the restaurant.
I thought this is an opportunity for just clarity. I personally hate, seeing one fee, and then when I go to the checkout, it's like much larger than that.
While the company is focused on serving Brampton for now, it has plans to expand across the GTA in Canada. Baba Kitchen is one of around 50 restaurants which have signed on to the platform since it launched last month.
In the restaurant industry, it's very less margin while we are cooking food and selling to the customers. And if we're going with a Speedy Feast kind of apps, that will be like we are growing with them.
At a time when supporting Canadian businesses is a source of pride, Speedy Feast is going a step further.
You can also select one of our donation options.
After every order, it donates a small percentage to a local food organization. At no cost to the customer, they can choose to support food banks, school lunches, and soup kitchens.
If you're placing an order from, say, Brampton, it will go specifically to Brampton. If you're, let's say, from Mississauga, it'll go to Mississauga. So these are location-based hunger-related charities that we match to.
Working towards feeding everyone, one delivery at a time. Rahim Ladani, CTV News.
Turning now to Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy are set to sign a crucial minerals deal today as Ukraine looks to secure American support and discuss security concerns related to Russia. And CTV's Scott Hurst is standing by with more on this highly anticipated meeting. Scott, big meeting in Washington today. What are we expecting?
Good afternoon, Nathan. It is a critical meeting for Zelenskyy and ultimately the future of his nation. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and U.S. President Donald Trump are currently now meeting at the White House. Zelenskyy showed up at the White House less than an hour ago as he got out of his motorcade. He shook hands with U.S. President Donald Trump, as we see right here. As I mentioned, this was just about an hour ago. The two are now discussing this critical minerals deal, this rare earth minerals deal at the White House. So the big question, why is that so important for the U.S.? These resources are, of course, widely used in high-tech products. It would secure access for the American market to these critical minerals and ultimately bind the two nations in an economic partnership. Now, according to the preliminary economic framework and this agreement, what we know about it, the U.S. and Ukraine would establish a jointly managed reconstruction fund where Ukraine would contribute half of all future revenue from government-owned natural resource assets. On the American perspective, of course, we've been hearing U.S. President Donald Trump often gripe about how much the U.S. has spent on Ukrainian defense and often take issue with how much the U.S. is spending compared to other allies, particularly those in Europe. And so the U.S. president had often talked about this deal as some sort of payback, Nathan, or a reimbursement for all that money the U.S. has spent over the past 3 years on Ukrainian defense.
And what about other assurances? What will Zelenskyy be looking for?
Well, one of the key assurances that he's looking for are ongoing security assurances from the U.S., from other allies as well, but notably ongoing security assurances from the U.S., not just a peace deal in the moment, but then, of course, security assurances from Russia in the years ahead. We've seen the U.S. open negotiations with Russia. We saw talks in Saudi Arabia earlier this month that were led by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio leading the U.S. delegation. Now, Ukraine has been quite critical of these talks, saying there can't be a peace deal unless Ukraine is at the table. Well, today, Ukrainian President Zelenskyy will have that chance. He'll have an audience of one, speaking directly to the U.S. president to lay out what his country would need to bring this war to an end. Now, the two are in the White House meeting right now. Nathan, we're expecting to hear from the two leaders in a joint press conference sometime later this afternoon.
All right, CTV's Scott Hurst with the latest on the Trump-Zelenskyy meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
Meanwhile, the uncertainty over tariffs has many Canadians on edge, but it also has many Americans concerned.
Now, officials say there has been an increase in interest in Canadian citizenship. CTV's Andrew Johnson has the details.
I am going to set fire to this thing.
Jennifer Doxey doesn't want to be an American anymore.
I value the opportunity to live in Canada, and I am just so embarrassed, I think, really, by what my country has become.
Doxey moved to this country from the U.S. Midwest close to 2 decades ago, first to Saskatchewan, then settling on Vancouver Island. Her husband and one of her 2 daughters have dual citizenship.
We feel Canadian in every respect, but every last one of us in our family is like chained to the United States, and we don't want to be.
The tipping point? Trump, his tariff threats, and talk of annexation.
I hear Donald Trump come on television and say that he would like to make Canada the 51st state, and this just infuriated me.
But renouncing American citizenship isn't easy or cheap. The U.S. charges about $3,400 Canadian per person. The process can take months, including immigration filings, tax submissions, and an interview.
It's a major life decision, and it's not something that should be taken lightly.
Still, one immigration lawyer, an American who renounced his own citizenship in 2023, says since Trump was reelected, he's getting 50% more inquiries.
I think there's just a frustration that the country is going in this direction of a lot of animosity, and people don't recognize it from when they used to live there.
Jennifer Doxey is sure she will never live in the United States again.
I feel for the people that are left behind, that are having to watch this.
Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Well, it looks like February is ending on a very fitting note here in Toronto. We've got more snow, and as of yesterday, we picked up about 4 centimeters of it. This is now our snowiest February on record in the city of Toronto at 78 centimeters. Here's the rest of your February recap. I think we'll remember it mostly for the snow, however. Tomorrow, a new month means new norms. Welcome to March. Here's a look at your average highs and lows. We do expect a little more in the way of rainfall, but yeah, still some snow in March as well. And this weekend, the first of the new month, is going to feel quite cold. We'll take you through the 7-day forecast after this break here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
Well, today happens to be the last day of Black History Month, and students at Rockford Elementary School are marking the day with some special programming. That's where we find CTV's Jessica Smith. And Jess, you also spoke this morning as part of the celebration. I think that's so fun.
It was so much fun, Michelle. Everybody say hi to Michelle and Nathan. Hi. We are here at Rockford Public School, and they've been celebrating all month long. I'll bring in Miss Veronica, one of the wonderful teachers. Come on over here. Everyone give her a big round of applause. Thank you. So you guys have been celebrating Black History Month all month long. Why is it so important to you guys to recognize culture and diversity?
It is important. First of all, it's the directive of our board. Generally, it's our culture at the school. We all firmly believe that every child should be represented, that they should see themselves in the curriculum, that they should have a voice, that they should hear their stories. So for African Heritage Month, we get a chance to give the student the correct narrative, because we have all kinds of narratives out there. So they get to hear about some of the pain, but we don't stop there. We don't stop at the trauma. We also move on to tell them about the victories and the resilience of the Black people. And so it's been a wonderful month of learning and just exploring together.
And when I came in, they were dancing, they were having lots of fun, and they got beautiful artwork in the background from a lot of the classrooms. Why is it so important to you guys to have the kids be so hands-on when it comes to this part of their education?
because they live in a real world, and we need to make sure that we're connecting the stories, that they can see, they're not only hearing of the past, but they're seeing people closer to their age group who are achieving and doing well as Black people, since we're celebrating Black History Month, but we bring it home to them so that they're hands-on, interacting and learning together, and it's not just telling a story, but they're actually involved, actively involved.
And speaking of the students, come on over. I have a student representative. Introduce yourself.
My name is Brielle.
So tell me, Brielle, what's so important about Black History Month, and why has it been enjoyable to learn about?
It's been enjoyable because, like, I get to see all those others who came before me, and, like, I get to feel pride in myself that there were those Black people who did a lot of work just so that I could have, like, freedoms and rights for today.
And you guys have been singing and dancing and creating art. How much fun has that been to be able to do this with all your friends at school?
A lot of fun.
Tell me, what has been your favorite part so far?
Probably learning about Mr. Luther King.
I feel like you guys have had a lot of fun, and you guys were dancing in here today. We're going to do a big Happy Black History Month on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Happy Black History Month!
And all the programming, you guys have been dancing. Maybe we can put on a little bit of music, because I feel like you guys have to see them perform, because they've been putting in the work. Are you guys ready to get some dance moves on? Are you sure? Yeah! All right, we'll send it back in studio. We're going to get dancing.
We want to see those moves. Let's see them.
Okay. Hey, guys, you got to start dancing. Ready? Let's go. Coming. Spread out, spread out. You know what? We're going to stretch. We're going to get ready. And we're going to say,
oh,
we're ready for the
Rockford.
dancing. There was no music.
Oh, honestly.
Started running instead, but fine, there's your kids.
I
They were
love
cute,
Rockford
weren't they?
Elementary School. Shout out to you. That was amazing. Amazing.
All right, so but the forecast. So originally they said there was going to be quite a bit of snow, but it seems like we're kind of, they're easing off with the forecast.
This is some Good Friday news.
It is. We've had a lot of snow, as you know, in the month of February, so I think this will be music to your ears. The storm today, it's still coming. We are still expecting wet snow through this afternoon and the early part of the evening, but it's not looking quite as impactful as it did even just at this time yesterday. We were anticipating 5 or more centimeters of snow. It will likely be less than that in Toronto, and there's a higher likelihood that we could see some rain mixing in this evening because the temperature is expected to climb to about 4 degrees, but don't get too comfortable with that. It is going to be a cold weekend. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. Well, maybe you woke up this morning, you looked outside your window and you thought the sun is shining, it is Friday, it is going to be a beautiful day. Well, it was a beautiful start to the day. We've since had some cloud cover move in, and yes, snow is approaching, especially the west end of the GTA. I do want to share with you another little bit of good news. March 1st marks the start of meteorological spring. Now, many of us do recognize astronomical spring, which this year is going to arrive on March 20th, but let's think positively and welcome meteorological spring tomorrow. This is based on temperature patterns as opposed to the more traditional way that we mark the beginning of spring a little bit later in the month of March. Not exactly going to look or feel like spring tonight or tomorrow. We are still seeing many communities within the GTA under a special weather statement, a winter weather travel advisory, especially Durham region, portions of York region too. This is where maybe 5 centimeters of snow could fall. Areas that are in the snowfall warning, this is well into Muskoka, for example, upwards of 10 centimeters of snow. This is our Clipper system. It is on its way. It's moving in. Clippers are generally fast movers, but they do usually bring a few centimeters of snow, so we can still expect that. Winds are going to be more of a factor than they were earlier this week as well. We're going to talk about that momentarily. So again, slushy couple of centimeters expected for us here in the city of Toronto. The further north you travel and east, the higher the amounts get. The further west and south you go, the better chance of seeing less snow and maybe more in the way of rain. So let's time it out. Early this afternoon, there's 2 o'clock. Snow impacting parts of the GTA, and then there's 7. So you can see that rain mixing in, again, especially Toronto and west over toward the Niagara Peninsula too. overnight and into Saturday. On the backside of this low, we're still expecting some strong winds coming out of the northwest. That's going to cool us right down. It's going to trigger some lake effect snow off of Lake Huron. And then Saturday and Sunday, we do get some sun, but boy, oh boy, is it going to be cold. Winds right now coming out of the south. We're going to tap into more of a northwesterly flow through the day tomorrow, switching back to a bit more of a west wind into the day on Sunday. But at that point, yeah, we're going to be feeling it. Today's high happening in the evening hours today, about 4 degrees. And then overnight, midway through the overnight, we're at about -3 degrees. And then your weekend, the overnight lows are going to be back in minus double-digit territory. So bundle up. Don't put the winter jacket away just yet. Here's the thing. Temperature rebounds as we make our way into next week. We could climb to about 7 degrees by next Wednesday with some rain in the forecast, too. That's your look at the weather for now. Nathan, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Well, if you're planning to take the TTC this weekend, there's a major subway closure to keep in mind. Line 1 trains will stop running between Bloor-Yonge and Osgood stations at 11 o'clock tonight, as they have every weeknight. This is because of track work. But service will not resume in the morning, and instead, it'll stay shut down all of Saturday and Sunday. Shuttle buses will operate, but the TTC is also advising riders to consider surface routes connecting to the other side of Line 1. Coming up, improving the lives of people living with rheumatoid arthritis. Researchers at York University identify what could be the treatment for the disease.
The latest research being done at York University is paving the way for new treatments for rheumatoid arthritis.
We get the details from our health reporter, Pauline Chan.
Nearly 400,000 Canadians live with rheumatoid arthritis, and while its causes are multi-layered and complex, researchers at York U have discovered a specific protein that could be the key to reducing the debilitating effects of this condition.
So the gene we work on is called TRAF1, spelled TRAF1. It's an immune protein that is present in most immune cells.
Previous studies have found it is associated with an increased risk of developing rheumatoid arthritis.
People with too much of this protein have higher immune cell activation, meaning their immune cells are overactive.
Conversely, too little of this protein can also cause problems in rheumatoid arthritis. Professor Ali Abdul-Sader has identified a critical mutation in TRAF1, which can allow them to shut down the overactive immune response that causes the body to attack its own joints. Current treatments include broad immunosuppressives like steroids.
It's got so many side effects, and it will put you at a higher risk of infections, right?
There are also biologics, but they are so specific in their targets that many patients, up to half, don't respond to them.
The researchers are just beginning tests on human patient tissues, but it will likely be many years before they can do clinical trials on human patients.
Still, Abdul-Sader says with so many suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, finding a treatment, especially for those who don't currently respond to medications, is an exciting goal. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Public health officials say the number of confirmed measles cases in Ontario is on the rise. Public Health Ontario reporting 78 new infections over the last 2 weeks as part of an outbreak that started in October. To put the surge in cases into context, there have been 142 confirmed or probable infections so far this year. Between 2013 and 2023, there were 101. Measles is a highly contagious but preventable disease that mostly infects unvaccinated children and teens in this outbreak. Officials say the vaccine is the best way to stay protected.
Meanwhile, the latest figures on respiratory virus season show the flu is still sending hundreds of Ontarians to hospital each week. 611 people were admitted for treatment of their infections between February 16th and the 22nd, as lab tests continue to show a high level of influenza spread. COVID sent 44 people to hospital in that time, and RSV sent 150 to hospital, as health officials say those viruses are still spreading at low levels.
A Vancouver mom is speaking out after deciding to cross the border and pay out of pocket to protect her premature baby.
And her decision to travel to the U.S. may have saved her daughter's life. CTV's Shannon Patterson has the story.
Georgia Colburn is a healthy 13-month-old, which is remarkable considering she was born 3 months premature last January.
Yeah, it was terrifying. We were prepared for worst case scenario.
After 110 days in the neonatal intensive care unit, Georgia was finally discharged.
Good job.
But doctors warned the Colburns that their daughter's premature lungs were vulnerable to a severe RSV infection this winter, and she needed protection.
There's the RSV prophylaxis, and that one is essentially to protect infants from RSV as much as possible. We were told in the NICU that it shouldn't be an issue to have it.
When they applied to the BC government for a dose of the monoclonal antibody medication for Georgia, they were told she didn't qualify.
It's extremely disappointing that we weren't covered by BC, that BC did not have our back. I just don't understand why they're not protecting the most vulnerable members of our society, babies.
The Colburns traveled to Washington State to get Georgia a dose of the RSV protection, and they're glad they did. 2 weeks ago, she was admitted to BC Children's Hospital with a fever and difficulty breathing.
It was the doctor who informed us that she had had RSV and that it had progressed to bronchiolitis.
That doctor told the Colburns if they hadn't paid $500 US for the antibody medication in Bellingham, Georgia could have ended up in the ICU.
The injection is not going to prevent the babies from getting sick, but it's going to help them to recover faster and have a less severe illnesses.
Georgia would likely have gotten the medication if she lived in Ontario or Quebec, where it's more widely available for infants.
We are really calling for equal access to prophylaxis for all babies, because we know the impact of RSV, especially on babies who are born preterm with very immature lungs.
In a statement, the health ministry says it's following national standards about which infants are eligible for the medication. Yay! With help from the antibody treatment, Georgia recovered from her RSV infection. But the Colburns know not every family can travel out of country to get that medication.
And it's not fair. And so if Georgia's story can help change things in the future, that's what we want from this.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Change is coming to a grocery store near you.
The front of some food products will look a little different next year and feature some information that may make you think twice. CTV's Krista Sharp explains.
Sugar, salt, and fat will soon be under the magnifying glass as Health Canada has mandated new front-of-package food labels come January 1st, 2026.
It's a simple black and white magnifying glass icon that's aiming to actually help consumers making more informed choices and healthier choices.
According to Health Canada, 8 in 10 Canadians say nutrition is important when choosing foods. But 60% of the foods we buy are prepackaged and processed. 1/3 of the fat we eat comes from snacks and fast food. 2/3 of prepackaged foods in the grocery store have sugars added to them. And 3/4 of the sodium we eat comes from prepackaged and processed foods. Fat, sugar, and salt, when overconsumed, can contribute to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes.
I'm very much of the opinion that the informed consumer is always going to be a better off consumer.
Dietitian Chelsea Cross says fresh foods like fruits and vegetables that don't need any labels are always the best choice, but that it's okay to indulge sometimes with moderation.
Nothing wrong with having chips here or there. Again, is it the most nutrient-dense food in the world? No.
She hopes the new labels will help increase awareness, especially when it comes to portions.
It's one of those things that we want a Goldilocks amount, if you will.
There will, however, be some exceptions to the new labels.
Some food products that are important for health.
Items that won't have a front-of-package label, despite sometimes being high in sugar, sodium, or fat, will include some dairy products, ground beef, honey, and baby formula. Krista Sharp, CTV News, Kitchener.
In Rome, the Vatican has made alternate plans ahead of Ash Wednesday as Pope Francis continues to recover from pneumonia. Doctors, staff, and the faithful attended a mass today to pray for the pontiff's health. Officials have suggested he has overcome the most critical phase of the infection, but held out on declaring him out of danger entirely. The Vatican's early update today indicated a level of normalcy and routine. Meanwhile, a cardinal will preside over the March 5th ceremony and procession to mark the start of the season of Lent leading up to Easter. And still to come on CTV News at noon, Canadian and U.S. stocks were higher in early trading today. We'll have details on the rest of your business headlines right after the break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
The city's mayor, Olivia Chow, is continuing to push a message to shop and buy local amid the threat of U.S. tariffs.
Chow stopped by a downtown pizzeria that is ditching American products. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live at Graham's Pizza with more. Tell us more, Beth.
Michelle, March 4th, the date of those possible 25% U.S. tariffs is just days away. The message from the mayor, shop local and buy Canadian.
Slowly passing it.
At Graham's Pizza in the Junction, Mayor Olivia Chow is encouraging Torontonians to shop local.
We are resilient. Canadians, Torontonians are strong. We are proud Canadians, and we know how to take care of each other.
The owner recently switched out using any American products for as many Canadian ones as possible.
I've been daydreaming about it for several months, and when the election results came in and rhetoric sort of ramped up, I can't say what I was thinking politely, but I just figured I'm done with American products.
A new KPMG survey of nearly 2,000 Canadians found 80% are purposefully looking for the non-U.S. version of products. 84% are reading labels to see where products are made, with 77% saying they'll buy Canadian even if it costs more.
We didn't buy any fresh berries because the only ones we found were American, and specifically Floridian. No, it's not happening in my house.
And I noticed there's a lot more American products on sale right now, but I'm still skipping it.
Looking for the Canadian flag more often than not on any items, really, anything I buy.
The survey also says 93% want stores to identify and promote Canadian products, with 70% saying they'll boycott U.S. goods if Trump follows through with 25% tariffs, with 89% saying grocery stores should be required to give preferential shelf space to Canadian-made food. The mayor has formed a committee with 13 business leaders to tackle the threat of U.S. tariffs. More details are expected in the coming weeks. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle and Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Canadian and U.S. stocks moved up this morning, but it has been a lackluster week for investors.
Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg brings us the latest in business.
Hello there. U.S. and Canadian stocks edged higher in early trading after a closely watched indicator of U.S. inflation, the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index, matched expectations. That has raised hopes that the Federal Reserve will start cutting interest rates again. But fears of a slowdown in tech spending have driven America's NASDAQ Composite Index down more than 4% over the past week. There are signs that the Bank of Canada's interest rate reductions are strengthening the economy. Output grew 2.6% at an annual pace in the fourth quarter, beating the 1.7% forecast by economists. Traders put the odds of a rate cut on March 12th at about 45%. And finally, Bitcoin slipped below $84,000 US for a drop of more than 20% from its January peak. The cryptocurrency has been caught up in a broader retreat from risky assets amid those tariff threats by U.S. President Donald Trump. And Bitcoin has dropped below its 200-day moving average, a closely watched indicator of the long-term trend for the first time since October. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of B&N Bloomberg.
The makers of ChatGPT have announced a major update to the popular artificial intelligence chatbot. On Thursday, OpenAI revealed ChatGPT 4.5. The company calls it its largest and best model for chat yet, saying it has increased world knowledge and emotional intelligence. The AI industry is keeping a close eye on the performance of the new model, nicknamed Orion, which is said to be expensive to run as it relies on a lot of computing power. Tech experts have questioned whether advancements in chatbots are slowing down as competition in the sector increases.
And Microsoft has announced the end of the line for a popular piece of software. Messaging service Skype is shutting down as of May 5th. It was founded by two Scandinavians in 2003, revolutionizing internet communication by offering free voice calls between computers, later adding video chats. It also offered affordable rates for calls to landlines and mobile phones. Microsoft is now transitioning its users to the Teams software after Skype's popularity tumbled compared to rivals like Zoom and WhatsApp. Well, earlier this week, we told you about an Oakville senior who lost his life savings in a bank scam involving fake websites.
Following our report, more victims have come forward. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
You thought you were on the real PC Financial website.
Of course I did.
Walter Yamka of Oakville wanted to transfer money into a GIC investment last fall. He typed best GIC rates into the Google search engine and clicked on a website that appeared to be PC Financial's and called their number.
I said, I can come up with $750,000.
Yamka asked his bank to transfer the money, but it was a fake website, and he was scammed out of $750,000.
The bank should confirm the receivers that they're legitimate.
I'm devastated. I'm devastated that people are able to do this.
Samantha Barnes from near Calgary saw the story and contacted CTV News as the same scam happened to her. She was also searching online for GIC rates and clicked on a spoof PC Financial website. She was scammed out of $233,000. She says she raised concerns because the money was being sent to a BMO account and not PC Financial, but her bank wired the funds anyway.
It was a very uncomfortable situation. Yes, I was there doing it, but I feel like the banks really could have done a whole lot more to prevent this from happening.
CTV News spoke with another victim from Kitchener who also lost $900,000 to the same scam.
The banks have been completely negligent in setting up an online banking system and not putting in place the safeguards to prevent these kind of fraudulent rip-offs of their customers.
PC Financial does not sell GICs. In both cases, Yamka's bank, CIBC, and Barnes Bank, TD, said while staff will ask questions, if a client authorizes a transaction, they will follow their instructions. Dov Conacher says that's not good enough and feels banks should refund a customer's money if they don't catch the scam.
The Bank Act should be changed to say, banks, unless you can prove that you went through the full process of due diligence, you're paying the customer back.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Grammy winner Sabrina Carpenter has announced she's extending her ongoing concert tour. Carpenter has been touring her album Short and Sweet across North America and Europe. She's already had a stop here in Toronto last September, but after the release of a deluxe version of her album, she set plans to return to a few North American stops. She'll be back at Scotiabank Arena November 10th and 11th. And that's not the only big new music news to share with you.
Tickets went on sale yesterday for the hotly awaited world tour by K-pop group Blackpink. The quartet was already set to play the new Rogers Stadium on July 22nd, and the 50,000-seat venue sold out quickly. As a result, a second show has been added to the calendar for July 23rd. Ticket sales start at 3 p.m. today. Coming up, want to build your own robot? A Waterloo University student is hoping to make it possible for robot enthusiasts. We'll have the details after the break.
Imagine being able to build your own robot. A University of Waterloo engineering student is helping make that a reality through a customizable kit.
And as CTV's Spencer Turcott finds out, he's doing so for a fraction of the cost compared to the others on the market.
Or it goes in a circle first.
It can move.
Or it can kind of just follow me.
It can follow you.
It's pretty much mealtime, so what's up with you?
Oh, you can speak to it too. And how does building one yourself sound?
That's exactly the problem, is like it's so hard for you to just do that.
But engineering student Brian Machado wants to change that. He's doing so through his final year project at the University of Waterloo, hoping to address a serious problem in the robotics market: high costs.
There are ones which are very comparable, which are like $25,000, and like our BracketBot is like basically exactly the same, and BracketBot only costs $500.
BracketBot consists of a kit that allows hobbyists or people with basic coding knowledge the ability to put it all together themselves through a tutorial video and the simple tools it comes with.
You don't need any hardware experience. It's very simple to assemble, like just some Allen keys and screwdrivers and stuff, which all come in the kit.
And even for the average Joe, artificial intelligence essentially helps you do the rest.
To be honest, like these days it's getting so easy that You could probably figure it out. To be clear, it's not meant to like do your dishes.
More so used for one's enjoyment and learning.
I mean, the most basic thing it does is drive.
As for the most advanced,
I wrote some code yesterday that hosts a website online that my friends in California could control the robot. And so they were like FaceTiming with the robot into my house.
In terms of when it will be available, Machado wants to start fulfilling orders once he graduates in a couple of months, something that really could change the cost and access to robotics going forward.
It's a big deal. Like, it literally doesn't exist.
Spencer Turcotte, CTV News, Waterloo.
Well, we are awaiting the snow now. It is imminent. It was a nice dry start to the day, but some, weather's moving in.
Yes, even though this storm isn't going to be quite as potent as it had potential to be, we are still getting snow this afternoon. It's knocking on our door here in the GTA. Let's take one more look at the satellite and radar imagery. Snow with us through the early part of the afternoon and early part of the evening before a changeover to some rain. There are still winter weather travel advisories in place for York Region as well as Durham Region. Snowfall warnings further to the north, including Parry Sound. Your travelers forecast plan on maybe some slick spots this afternoon, early afternoon certainly. Temperature rising to about 4 degrees this evening, but that's the last of the mild air for the weekend. It's going to be much colder for Saturday and Sunday. Looks like we could get into some rain through the middle part of next week as well. Nathan and Michelle.
All right. Thanks, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.